My advice for young women getting started in the ad industry really comes down to three things. First, I would say learn as much as you can. For me, I found it important to get exposure to different campaign strategies and media types early on, just so I could figure out what I liked. But I think it's important to work on different brands if you can and projects to help broaden that skill set early on, because ultimately you'll get an idea of what you enjoy, what your strengths are and how to refine them, and where you can add value as your career progresses. Secondly, have an opinion. I think in the early stages of your career, it can sometimes be uncomfortable to express your opinion out of fear of coming across inexperienced or maybe saying the wrong thing, but I think advertising is very collaborative, so you'll find people will respect you for being outspoken and ultimately having a point of view. Lastly, advocate for yourself. I think it is so important for women to know their worth, especially when it comes to promotions, raises, and salary negotiations early on. But be vocal in expressing what areas of the business interest you and what projects you want to own and ultimately be successful at. From there, you can create your list of wins and make sure you're actively communicating those wins too.
I believe women in the advertising industry face a lot of the same challenges that women face across all industries. However, in my experience, what I think has been especially unique about the audio space and about ad results media in particular has been the willingness of women to mentor, lend a hand, and collaborate with each other in order to empower one another to do their best and succeed.
For a career role model, I've always had an ideal character in my head, and if I had to personify it, it would probably be Joanna Gaines. It is clear she is a successful businesswoman, but she is also a wife and a mother. I think of a quote by Michael Ramsden: "We are not made happy in life by what we accrue, but by what we appreciate." I love and appreciate my family and my work. I think it's a myth that a woman has to compromise family in order to grow in her profession, or vice versa, that she has to sacrifice her career to have a family. Is it challenging to do both? Yes. But with a spouse who has the same desire and shares in the labor of home life, and if you find a company who values you and respects a home-life balance, it is possible. So while I don't need to accrue riches and fame, I do aim to be a successful wife, mother, and businesswoman.
One thing I feel as though we could do to be more inclusive in the ad industry would be to be more diverse. Oftentimes we don't see someone from each type of community sitting at these tables. I feel as though if brands made a more intentional effort to be diverse and to be inclusive of everyone, we would no longer have controversial campaigns or anything like that going on. I think it's very important to have a person from each type of community there to represent their community. And I think that within the advertising industry, we are really, really lacking in diversity.
The best piece of career advice that I have received is that you cannot let failure define you as a person. And I think this is so valuable because we will all experience failure at some point in our lives. Certain failures can leave you in a position in which it is hard to set apart the circumstance from who you are as a person. For me especially, I've always been one to think failure happens because there was something that I did or did not do to prevent it from happening. But I'm so glad that I heard this early in my career because that's not always the case. And sometimes effort doesn't equal end result. And sometimes you've given it your all, but it just didn't turn out the way you planned for it to. And that's okay. Being reminded that failure doesn't define who you are is what ultimately led me to take my failures and to grow from them and to keep going, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I let those failures get to me. And so just remember that your failures do not define who you are.